Hello, everybody. I hope y'all have been having a great week. Today we have Whitney Gardner, also known as Mama Witt, and she is a mama to a daughter who is a year and a half, a dog mama, and a wife who is the CEO of the Bold Mama Co., which is an online business aimed to help moms set boundaries, say no, and let go of what no longer serves them so they can feel empowered and in control of their schedules, relationships, and self care. She is a coach, blogger, content creator, and she also has a podcast coming soon. Thanks for joining us, Whitney.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to speak to your audience of possibly mamas and just be able to talk about all
Yeah.
things boundaries. It's so fun.
Yeah. So most of my audience are moms.
That's
So
awesome.
we are so glad to have you.
Yeah.
And as always, the first question that I always ask everyone is
Mhm.
what is your definition of balance?
So, my definition of balance, especially for moms, kind of revolve around my three main pillars that I talk a lot about.
Mm,
And that's having yourself be surrounded by uplifting relationships by people that make you feel your best, that you don't feel overcommitted by. And then also being able to fit in your self care and be able to make that
mhm,
time and schedule that into your calendar to be able to actually have self care. And then also having a balanced schedule and not feeling
mm,
overcommitted or overwhelmed from that. And kind of having those three mixed in together of having a really balanced life is taking care of like your mental, your
mm,
physical, your emotional health, and kind of revolving around like those three main topics. Cause I feel like those are really the
yeah.
main influential factors when we talk about
Mhm,
balance and like reducing guilt and feeling more present and more productive. I feel like all of
mhm.
those things just really make such a big impact with your balance of your day-to-day like schedule and how you run your life really.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Thanks for that. And you have a daughter who is 1.5.
Mhm.
How has how has your view of balance changed since you became a mom, since it wasn't not too long ago?
That's a great question. It's definitely been an adjustment. The hardest part for me was right after I had her, I went back to work pretty much right away.
Mm,
So in addition to being the CEO of the Bold Mama Co., I was working a 9 to 5 up until
mm,
like very recently. And
mm,
it was a very stressful, hard experience running the Bold Mama Co., having her watching her full time while I was working
mm.
online, building the Bold Mama Co., and then also trying to fit in like scheduling and self care and different, relationships and my own health and
Yeah.
wellness. And I'm someone that very much prides myself on someone who is very much connected to like my mind, body, soul. So I really do a lot of like
Mm,
work with that in my day
yeah.
to day life. And so that was just extremely overwhelming for me. And so my definition of balance has
Mm,
definitely changed because I had to learn how to really be present and mindful when I was with her versus
yeah.
when I wasn't with her. Like when you're single, or even if you're just married without a baby, you can kind
Hmm.
of like do all of these different things without feeling like super guilty about like one being
Hmm.
like letting one go or something. But
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
once you involve your own child and you're like, okay, well, now I feel guilty because I'm working, but I should be with her. Oh, but now I feel guilty because I'm folding the laundry when I should be with her or something. And really trying to like work through that balance
Hmm.
of trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to have the best time possible with her and then also be able to work and do like household things and whatever else I'm trying to do in my day to day life. It was definitely a challenge.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. And I totally get it. I think there's a point where for me, there's like an age, and I can't even tell you which age, but it's an age where you know they're wanting more of your attention, even though, right, studies
Yes.
show babies always want your attention. And there's
Yes.
actually so much that babies can do. It's just that we're usually not looking, and their response time is much more delayed than an older baby.
Mm-hmm.
So, but there's an age, and I felt like more of a pool. where my like little guilt kind of came in, where
Yeah.
I felt bad, like maybe watching a show because it was easier to watch a show when they're not trying to get my attention.
Exactly, exactly. I felt
Yeah.
that too. I love to watch like certain shows at night. I
Hmm.
call it like my trash television, like my reality shows and stuff. I like love it.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, shoot, I can't do that and watch her because she wants to stare at the screen and we do like no screen
Hmm.
time yet. And now she's starting to bring me like all of these books and toys and being like so much more interactive and like
Yeah.
wanting to do like new things that I'm like, oh my
Hmm.
gosh, things are changing so quickly. And so the guilt all kind of shifts depending on what you're doing. But I'm
Yes.
just so glad that I was fortunate enough to be able to leave my 9 to 5 and like slowly
Mm.
transition out. I'm only 50% for a few more months and then I'm completely done. But
That's awesome.
for those moms that are trying to still like work full time with their babies at home, like I
Hmm.
know how challenging it is. It is so much work and it is such a struggle. And I had a lot of like stress and anxiety from it because you're just constantly feeling
Yeah.
like everything requires your attention and you can't get anything done in a timely manner. And there's so much
Yeah.
going on. It's not easy, but
Oh yeah. And I don't
yeah.
know for you, but I remember when that started happening and I was so used to maybe watching TV, or
Mm-hmm.
in the evening or something, or maybe I was just used to doing something specific at a certain time. And as
Mm-hmm.
they got older and they wanted to come, play or read a book, I remember getting annoyed. Like, oh,
Yeah,
really? Like you want to do this now as I'm trying to relax?
I
And it
know.
really, I don't remember at what point that I realized this, but I recognized, okay, this really needs to be a mental shift, as this is just not going to be my reality anymore. This is,
Mm-hmm.
the kids are going to come and they do need my attention.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't watch this show at this time. I'm going to have to
Mm-hmm.
redo my expectation of how I'm going to relax in the evening or
Mm-hmm.
decompress. And so even just making that realization, this is, things are changing, the kids are getting older and they're coming to ask more for things, as in
Mm-hmm.
reading a book or quality time. And that's fine because they're at school or at daycare most of the day.
Mm-hmm.
Of course they're going to be asking for our attention, but
Mm-hmm.
it's so normal to feel that annoyance or irritation, as in like, oh, can I have my own space? Even though I've had space from them most of the day.
I know. Trust me, I feel that same way. Is it's kind of hard. You're sometimes just like, I just really
Mm-hmm.
want to do this one thing,
Yeah.
but I can't, and it's okay too. But just kind of learning how to balance a little bit of both or just being like, okay, well, I'm going to maybe go in the room for like 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then maybe the husband can watch him for a little bit and then I'll come switch or whatever. Or just be like you said, adjusting your expectations and trying to figure out like, what
Mm-hmm.
is the new norm? What's going to work for me now? That's been a lot of like
Yeah.
what I've had to do. Like as a new mom is trying to and it because it's constantly changing, like every
Mm-hmm.
period of growth is so different. Like when she was a newborn, you could sit there and watch TV all day if
Oh
you wanted
yeah.
to and lay
Oh
down. And I'm
yeah.
like, where are those days where they wanted to cuddle with you and like watch, just chill and like do whatever and sleep half
Oh
the
yeah.
day?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I had so much time. What was I doing? And then, of
Mm-hmm.
course, I think back and all I wanted to do was like get chores done and like do other things. And then now
Yeah.
it's just so different with her being so interactive. But I'm lucky she still takes a lot of
Mm-hmm.
naps and stuff. Just trying to be really like accepting of where you're at in your journey too and like what your kids need from you and no it's not going to last forever too, like
Mm-hmm.
it's always going to be changing. But like you said too, with like the daycare having help or not feeling afraid to
Mm-hmm.
ask for help or ask, possibly a spouse for support or some, if you need somebody to come in and
Yeah.
help with something else or take something off your plate. Like I'm a huge advocate for outsourcing, especially with things like, cleaning the whole house or,
Mm-hmm.
just big projects like that. I just feel like
Yeah.
there's other things that we could be better spending our time on that are really like not something that we should really be worrying about, that
Mm-hmm.
could be much better suited for somebody else and then we can spend our time on something else like that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I know boundaries is one of the things you really focus on and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
How was, I guess, the Bold Mama Co. created, and
Mm-hmm.
then like the boundaries work? Was that Did the thought about boundaries come first, or was the idea of the Bold Mama Co? And how did those come together?
Yeah. So my little story is I actually started my own podcast and had a different
Mm,
platform back in 2020 called Words with Wit. There's nothing out about it anymore. I took it all down, but it was all
okay.
about health and wellness and personal development for women. That's
Mm,
always been something that I'm very, very passionate about. I love taking care of myself, like I said, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So I started doing some content creation around that. And then I only put out like 10 episodes or something. And I was like, dang, this is a lot
okay.
of work right now. Because I knew it was coming up to me getting engaged, married. I was going to change my name. It
Mm,
was going to be a lot of work to have to redo stuff later on. And I knew a lot of the content was going
okay.
to like, there was a lot of changes coming up in my life and it just wasn't
Hmm.
the right time. So then I was still working my 9 to 5. I was keeping really busy because I was planning the wedding and all that stuff. And then we got pregnant like right away. It only took us like 2 or 3 months.
Mm.
And then I was pregnant, had my daughter, felt sick the whole time. So I was like, I'm definitely not doing anything right
Oh,
now. It was
yeah.
awful. And then once I had her, I was like, okay, I really miss doing something for me that makes me feel super fulfilled because my 9 to 5 is
Mm,
not that for me. It never has been. It's kind of been something like security where you have the benefits
okay.
and all that. So I was like, okay, so what am I going to do? So we decided that we were actually going to move from California to Texas. And
Okay.
we only did this like 2 or 3 months ago. But
I
when we just,
forgot that you were in Texas. Sorry. I
yes,
just,
no, 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 it's
yeah.
okay. It's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot. Yeah.
What state do you live
Go
in?
on. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I'm
it's
sorry.
okay. What state do you live in?
I'm in Texas also.
You are? What
Yes.
part of Texas?
Yes.
What like major
I
area?
I'm not in a major area.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
actually in a pretty rural area. I'm in 2.5 hours southwest of San Antonio. So I'm in Del Rio,
Oh, okay.
Texas.
Okay. I'm in like
Yes.
Dallas Fort Worth area.
Okay. Yeah. So that's like 9 hours away. But
Yeah.
it's always great
Oh,
connecting with
see,
you in
I
Texas.
love
Yes.
that.
I completely
Oh,
forgot.
no, no, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Anyways, so we moved to Texas and I was like, okay, so now that I'm not going to have a 9 to 5 because rent is literally half the price of our mortgage.
Hmm.
I'm like, okay, so I can finally do something for me. I'm not going to have the stress of the 9 to 5. So what do I want to do? So I started doing all this research, like best things to do as a stay-at-home mom or someone that wants to like be present with their kids while they're also doing something. And then I found a blog. And then I got really into following these bloggers and I listened to like almost every one of their podcast episodes. I was like, I got to do a blog. So I started a
Yeah.
blog, I built my website. And then I don't even know how I started getting into all this other stuff, but I was like, ooh, maybe I can do a podcast again. And then I found a thing on course creation and I took
Yeah.
another course through that. And then I was like, oh, social media, this is a real thing now. You could really like do a lot with this.
Hmm.
So then I started my social media and then yeah, it's just kind of all come together. And I've always wanted to be a public speaker. So that's kind of my next phase that I'm working on. So I have like so much going on. And then also the coaching business. I ended up finding an amazing mentor who's helped me so much. And I realized I think I can help a lot of
Mm.
people like one on one or in small group coaching or even like within courses or memberships. I'm literally open to any and all of like the
Yeah.
opportunities that go into entrepreneurship. So I kind of
Mm.
started building all of these things and they've just all been progressing and growing as I've been going along with it. And it's all been so quick. Like it's only been, I think like not even 6 months since I got the idea that I like wanted to
Yeah.
start everything. So then I decided, okay, moms really need help. Like, we don't have enough support. We don't
Hmm.
have enough resources.
No.
We have a lot of things that we wish we could be doing that we're not doing. I want to connect with more moms, especially because I'm moving states and I would, like, you just never know who's
Yeah.
out there. And so then I was like, okay, what am I going to do with this? And again, I kind of went into the same thing about like personal development, health and wellness. And then I realized this is just too broad. Like there's too many things to talk about with all these things. And then I reached
Which is a
out to,
great problem, right?
it was a great problem, but I was like,
Yeah.
if I really want to be known for something and I
Hmm.
really want to be in a very specific area, especially because like the internet and everything is so like there's so many people, but I
Oh,
really
yeah.
want people to know like I can go to her for this one
Hmm.
problem and she will really help me.
Yeah.
So then I talked to like 30 or so of my close mom friends. And I asked them what they were most struggling with. And the answers were work-life balance, motivation, different things with their relationships, different things with self-care, wanting more time. And then I kind of realized, oh my gosh, all of these things really relate to boundaries. Like if all of
Yes.
these people really knew how to do like their scheduling right, how not to be
Mhm.
overcommitted, how to say no, how to let things go that don't serve them, they will
Yeah.
feel so much better in all these different areas. And I don't even think that a
Yes.
lot of people realize how much all of these things are interconnected and how you can really make massive shifts in growth and improvement in all of these
Hmm.
areas. And then
Oh,
it
yeah.
can lead to like better mental health, better presence, less guilt. And there's just
Hmm.
so many problems that it solves that I was like, I feel like this is it. So I just started creating some content about it and I loved it. And it's really resonating with people like very quickly.
Mm. That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and I felt so passionate about it. I was like, I need to go start doing guest podcasts and just like getting some experience talking to people about it and stuff. And I've seriously like loved it. And I definitely know that this is my
Mm.
calling and what all my speeches will be about and the rest of my content will be about and really what my whole brand is going to be about it. And so now my nickname for the Bold Mama Co is Bold Mama Boundaries, and that's going to be the name of my podcast too.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
And one thing I do want to highlight for people who are listening right now, all the moms who are listening and might be thinking, I wish I had her clarity. I wish I knew what I wanted to do. But from what I was hearing about Whitney talking about is she just kept going and digging and trying to figure out what really resonated with her. And one of the people that I follow, his name's James Wedmore, and he always talks about how consistency creates clarity.
I
And
love
Whitney, your
that
story
saying.
right now really just is like a really great example of
Yeah.
that being so true because I know we can get bogged down and in the feeling of, I just don't know what I want to do. But if we just keep doing and consistently doing, we'll finally figure out what it is that really we want to do or what resonates with us. And I just wanted to point that out.
I love that. I'm not even kidding. If you didn't mention it, I was going to say one of my favorite quotes is by Amy Porterfield, and she said, "Action
Okay.
creates clarity." So it's kind of like the same
Oh,
vibe.
yes.
And
Yes.
I just feel like that really resonated with me when I went through her course and did some work with her. And I was like, okay, well, if I just keep
Mm.
going, if I just try to be 1% better every day, if I just try to do one thing with my
Mm-hmm.
business, if I just try to talk to one person and ask some questions, like look at
Yeah.
how far you can come, even in a short amount
Mm-hmm.
of time by being able
Yeah.
to just like stay positive and have like an I'm going to figure it out kind of attitude. That's something that I
Mm-hmm.
really think is probably my best quality, honestly, is like I have an I'm going to figure it out attitude. I don't care how long it's going to take me.
Yeah.
Like this time I'm determined really to stick with it. Like this is going to be like
Mm.
a huge empire and I'm going to really be able to help people. And I know this is it for me. And
Yeah.
so it's just having that mindset of like, if you're really determined, like you will stick with it and just kind of like evolve
Mm-hmm.
over time. And a lot of people talk about, especially within like the entrepreneur space or like career, is like shift, being able to pivot and shift with all your
Mm-hmm.
different like ideas and rebranding and stuff. And that's all okay. Like
Yes.
nobody has to be on like a set path doing one thing. Like that's why
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of people are doing these kind of jobs is because you have like the full autonomy to do whatever you want. So it's like, if I don't like that anymore, I
Absolutely.
don't have to do it anymore. But if I love it, I'm going to stick with it for a long
Oh,
time.
yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
just, I love that idea for, especially for like our entrepreneur moms out there, that just like you have the ability to do whatever you want. And
Mm-hmm.
if you don't love something, you don't have to stick with it, but you got to give it a little bit of time to figure it out. But
Yes.
and just going with like what feels right too. Like when I was
Mm-hmm.
doing some things and I was starting, like when I first started my social media platforms and stuff, I was just looking at the page. I was like, I think I'm going to delete all this and start all
Mm.
over again. But I'm so glad I did, because what I do, like what I have now, I like love it so much and I believe in it so
Mm.
much. And that really comes across. Like energy too is so huge to me. And I love talking about stuff
Yes.
like that. And when you really believe things and you want
Hmm.
people to, you know, feel that too, like they will when you have like
Mm.
that confidence and belief in
Oh
yourself.
yeah.
And that's one of
Hmm.
my big things with setting boundaries is like when you're asking for, help, or you're asking to change something, or you're asking to do whatever you want, in being able to set a boundary for yourself. Your energy and your confidence is like the number one tip that I have, because if you're
Yeah.
unsure with yourself, other people aren't going to believe you
Hmm.
or take it as
Yeah.
seriously. But when you come it across like, this is benefiting me, this is benefiting you, this is benefiting the whole family, and this is why I need to do this, like people are going to be much more
Yes.
receptive to that when you want to ask for like time for
Hmm.
yourself, or whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. If you come at it with that perspective shift of like help, like how this is going to help the whole family, that is like super helpful too.
Hmm. Yeah. And it also highlights how, because I'm thinking, well, people might be thinking, well, how do I get there? How do I know?
Yeah.
How do I build that confidence? Or how do I know that this is going to benefit my family?
Yeah.
And it comes down to having a vision for yourself
Mm-hmm.
of how you want your life to be.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're not already thinking, well, if we're not allowing ourselves to imagine and dream that I could have a more elevated life, or a life that I truly desire, you can have the life that you desire. But if you're not writing this down, if you're not allowing yourself to dream it, then it makes it harder to have the confidence or to set the boundaries, because we don't know what we're setting them for.
I
Or
love
I don't
that
know.
so
That's
much. No, I love that so much. That's something that I've actually thought a lot about, is like, for for myself at least, I always had so much pressure and overwhelm about getting engaged, getting married, and having a family. Like those things to me were like
hmm.
must haves in my whole life. But
Oh
now
yeah.
that I've accomplished them, I feel like moms need to have this perspective shift, like I have, of being like, oh my gosh, now you don't even have to worry about those things anymore. Like you got it. Now, what else can you do to like make a bigger impact on your family and
Mm,
on the world, and have a bigger message and a bigger purpose in life? Like once you're
yeah.
a mom, it doesn't mean that your life and your purpose has to end. I think
No.
if anything, it's just the start, because you've already gotten like a lot of the things that you wanted out of your life and that family aspect. And now that you have that solid family dynamic where it's
Hmm.
not like you're dating and you're like, I don't even know if this person's going to call me back. Like there's so many
Oh
things that
yeah.
you no longer have to worry about. It's like, take all that
Yeah.
energy that you're now saving
Hmm.
and put it towards something so much greater and bigger than yourself. And like, I have so many goals for my platform. Like I want to start a charity, and I want to, write a book, and I want to do all these things. But none of that would have happened if it wasn't for the right timing and me having all these things that I already have now. Like, I don't think that my platform before
Mm,
survived because I wasn't in the right mental place and I didn't feel solid in myself and in my family unit to
yeah.
be able to like go all in, if that makes sense.
Hmm. Oh yeah. It
So
makes
I love
absolute
that.
sense to me. Yeah. And some people might be thinking, what are you talking about? All this energy. I don't have any energy. I'm drained at the end of the day. And that really comes down
Yeah.
to boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Are we asking for help? Are we open to receiving help?
Yeah.
No, maybe your partner isn't helping enough. There is things to do about that. But outside of your partner, there's other people who are probably willing to help you. Are you embarrassed to ask them?
Mm-hmm.
Are you afraid of what you think they might think of you? Those are barriers to you setting your own boundaries, and it's something to think about, because boundaries is what's going to help you take back or save some of that energy.
Yes, 100%. I completely agree with you. And asking for help and knowing when to say no or when to say yes, like all of those things are very important to setting boundaries, and knowing like, I was talking to a mom through social media the other day who was saying that she was so drained because she goes to work like so early in the morning, gets home, has no
Mm,
time to play with her kids, has to cook dinner, and then it's
yeah.
just like such a long day for her. And I felt so bad for her, but a lot of the things that have really turned my life around with a lot of these like boundaries and just things are really having like big mindset shifts of being like
Mm,
grateful and trying to make the time that you do have and feeling like
yeah.
you always have a choice. Is there a job that she could be doing or somebody else could be doing that is like less time consuming where you could make the same amount of money or work part-time from home where you are with your kids more? Or I don't know, like I honestly made the choice when I was going back to work like after COVID and being able
Hmm.
to work remotely for so long, I was like, I am never going back to a 9 to 5 desk job in my whole life. Like after I got a little taste of that remote life, I was like, hey, this is for me
Yeah.
because I'm someone that's so self-driven, I'm motivated, I know what I need to
Mm-hmm.
do. Like I don't need to go to an office for somebody to
Yeah.
tell me what to do. I why I'm an entrepreneur now, but it's just like if you it's just all about like learning about yourself and what you truly need and what you truly
Hmm.
want and like asking, the universe or putting out that energy like if you don't want to ever go back to that or if you want more time with
Hmm.
your kids, like what kind of things could you be doing to make those shifts or changes or like put control back into your life where you're making these types of
Yeah.
decisions? And I know everyone's situation is very different and we don't all have as much like flexibility sometimes with different things or might be in a very
Hmm.
specific field or whatever. But I think just coming from that place of having a very empowering mindset shift of I
Hmm.
can do anything that I want, I am fully in control of my situation, what do I really want to be better? Am I
Yeah.
stuck in limiting beliefs that are holding me back from doing something greater that I really want to do? Am I
Yeah.
following the path of my parents? Like my mom was someone that worked for the state and constantly was like,
Mm.
you have to do a 9 to 5, you have to get a pension, you have to do this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was always kind of experimenting and breaking that mold. And so it's just all about, what do you truly
Mm.
want to do? And how are you going to make that happen by having a more empowering like
Hmm.
mindset shift with it?
Yeah. And again, I think it goes back to, are you allowing yourself to dream and to
Mm-hmm.
dream big?
Mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we get too our focus is too much on, is this realistic? But that really keeps us stuck
Mm-hmm.
and in a place where we can't dream. And the dreams are really what helps us to expand our reality, to meet those dreams and desires.
Yeah, 100%. I totally resonate with everything that you're saying. And it's just so great to talk to somebody who
Mm,
also, believes in these things and that it is really important as moms to keep dreaming and to keep believing in yourself and to,
yeah.
even if it's not like a job or a side hustle or anything like that, if you just even have like some kind of passion project or
Hmm.
something that you're working on separately. Like I know a mom that
Yeah.
really loves to garden and that's her little outlet. Like I think we all just have to find some kind of little outlet for ourselves, no matter how big or small, but
Hmm.
something that we can just look forward to that we get to either be alone or that really fulfills us by ourselves or something that we're purely working on that makes us
Yeah.
feel like so good and accomplished and really like fulfilled. Because I personally am someone that just never wanted to lose myself. Like once I had a baby,
Hmm.
like my mom did that and she always told me like, don't ever do that, you need to either keep working or have a project or be doing something, and you need to keep
Yeah.
healthy. And especially with social media these days, there's so many like expectations and stuff,
Oh,
but
yeah.
in a
Yeah.
good way, honestly, because it's showing like so many moms out there who are able to work and keep healthy and who are doing a lot of amazing things. And
Hmm.
depending on the content you're consuming, those are the types of people that I like to watch and be around and be like, okay, it is possible. These are some of the things that these people are doing, but I think it
Yeah.
is super important to be doing all of these different things in order to be your best and be
Hmm.
at your
Hmm.
most I said this the other day. I'm like trying to think of what it was. Oh, shoot. I lost it. It's okay.
It's okay. Well, one of the things, um, because I will tell people just be careful with the content that you're consuming.
Mm-hmm.
And in that, what I'm really meaning is you don't know the support that these people have, that these content creators have, because oftentimes my clients will look at them and go, why can't I do this? Why can't my home be this perfect? But they're thinking of it as in, why am I not the one to be able to do all of these things when those people are not the only one doing all of those things? They have support. They probably have
Mm-hmm.
someone come clean their house. They probably
Mm-hmm.
have someone coming to watch their kids
Mm-hmm.
or to help meal prep or to do all of the things so that they can just
Mm-hmm.
focus on this.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the ones that are doing everything. And I think that's we where the social media stuff can become toxic for
Mm-hmm.
us is because of how we might be looking at what those people are doing and how they're doing it.
100%. I completely agree with you. It's really having those realistic expectations and something like, I don't even know. I think it was a few months ago, I just realized like my house, having it be perfect is no longer a priority for me. And having that
Yeah.
weight lifted off was like huge
Mm.
because having
Oh
a
yeah.
clean house, like we all want it, but having every toy picked up, having everything sanitized, having it all vacuumed, having it all
Mm-hmm.
like that, it takes so much time, energy, and effort. Like, and if it's not perfect, like it's never going to be perfect, especially when you have kids,
Yeah.
like especially little toddlers or whoever's like running around messing things up, wanting to get in cabinets and all the
Oh
things.
yeah. Yeah.
Like, why, like, just there's always something that you could, but if that is something that's super important to you, draw a boundary around it and be like, okay, this is the one thing that is very, very important to me. I'm going to let this
Mm-hmm.
other thing go. You literally cannot do it all. And like you said, those people on social media, there is no way. Like, think about Kim Kardashian having
No.
4 kids. She's a
Yeah.
lawyer. Like, you think that that girl does not outsource and have like an insane like staff to help her?
Oh
Like
yeah. Yeah.
all we all need an insane staff to help us,
Mm-hmm.
even at just like whatever we're doing.
Oh,
But
absolutely.
asking for help, like no one is doing all of these things. Or like if
No.
you're letting something go, like it's not that big of a deal, and that's like totally normal, and that's what you should be doing. And you
Oh
need a
yeah.
little bit
Mm-hmm.
of like that mental release of like, okay, I'm going to let this one thing go, it's going to be fine. Like my house is not going to fall apart. I was talking to another
No.
friend a few months ago and she was like, my kids are not going to remember if there was like some dog hair in the corner,
No.
like I'm like, what a great
Yeah.
point.
Mm-hmm.
I think I asked her that day, it was still when I was obsessing about having a clean house, and she was like, yeah, are they going to remember? I was like,
No.
they're not. What a great point. And I, from that day on, I was really able to like move on and be like, okay, I don't need to really worry about that anymore. Like, I'm going to do my best. Are you doing your best?
Mm-hmm.
Are you, and then like these are the things that I'm willing to do like day to day. And if I can't get to them, it's not that big of a deal. And then for the deep
Yeah.
cleaning, if I have to hire a house cleaner, I have to do it. Or all like the big projects that I want to do are only on the
Mm-hmm.
weekends or not during the work week where I'm trying to do like other things, and really having like that schedule kind of help me. And like you said, setting those realistic expectations. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, having
Mm-hmm.
being able to follow those other people, it's just like there's no way they're getting the gym without somebody
No.
watching their kids. There's no way that they're doing this without like doing something else or
Uh-huh.
meal prepping or having a chef or a house cleaner.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And sometimes these people have a set in their home where that's where they do everything. So that's the
Yeah.
one room that is pristine. Or,
Right.
I mean, I've seen people that they've used some kind of maybe wallpaper as a backdrop and it's in their kitchen, but their kitchen doesn't actually look that way. And it's just part of the creating process.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sometimes people's homes actually do look like that. But you can't tell the difference of whose is a set and whose is their actual home because even the people on YouTube, I remember my son when he was younger would watch this one kid and the parents, they were always playing. I mean, there's lots of
I
those
feel
now,
like I know what you're
but
talking about because my friends, I think it's called Kid City.
well, I think no, I don't know. This was a while back, so there wasn't as many as there are now because he's
Okay.
8 now. So this was when he was younger,
Okay.
and they they had a house that they lived in, but then they had another house that's where they would do all of their recordings.
I
And so
believe
it
that.
looked different. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So things could stay crazy because they would do so many crazy things with just playing because their audience was kids and they're making a huge mess or whatever, but that's not their home that they live in. So they're going to do whatever they want. And it's similar to us.
Yes.
That's not, might not be the room that they spend time in, so it's easy to keep it clean.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. It's so true. And like social
Mm,
media and all of that is all about like what we want people to see. Like obviously I'm going to show you this like
yeah.
very nice like plain background. But if I were to go
Yeah.
somewhere else, it would look like a hot mess. Like it, but that's just reality of like this is
Yeah.
what I want it to look like. This is my perceived
Hmm.
situation, but it's all just depending on how people like want you to think of things and how they want to come
Yeah.
across, especially on social media, and just remembering it's a highlight reel, and 90% of the
Yes.
time the things that are being shown are not realistic.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
it's like you said, what kind of content you're consuming or what kind of value you're getting from it. And really making that shift for me was a really big change of only following people who I either want to be like or who are inspiring me or who uplift me. Like I don't watch the news, I don't watch sad stuff, I don't even go on Facebook anymore because there used to be like things that would
Hmm.
trigger me. And making that big boundary shift was like really big for me, knowing like what's going to affect me, what's actually valuable for me to know. And
Hmm.
then because it really is powerful with what kind of content you're consuming. And
Oh
then
yeah.
just getting like inspiration from other people or wanting to learn like different business things on TikTok or whatever. And just being like, okay, if I'm going to go on here to scroll, I'm either going to learn something, be inspired, or
Hmm.
be like surrounded by somebody that I think is like worth my time, or like my
Oh
friends
yeah.
that are really worth it. So
Hmm.
that's a big boundary, even like with your phone and your content.
Yeah. And I don't watch the news either. And it's
Yeah.
funny because I haven't heard anyone say this. I that they don't watch the news. I don't watch the news either because it's it's well, I haven't watched the news basically almost since COVID, or if I'm going to my grandparents, they usually have it on, so
Mm-hmm,
I'll
mm-hmm,
sit and watch it with them. But there was just too much stuff. It was not good for my own energy.
mm-hmm.
It was almost depressing or stressful, and there isn't anything I can really do about it. But that's not to say that I don't stay on top of like, what's going on in the world and what's going on. But there's other ways to get that information without being stressed about something that is completely out of your control for the
Oh my
most part.
gosh. That was like, I wish I could do like the 100 emoji with like the little line, because that was just so freaking accurate to what I've been trying to say. Is
Mm,
it's like all these things are so out of your control. Like, why are you going to
yeah.
stress about something and let it affect your precious energy that
Mm-hmm.
you can't do
Yeah.
anything about? Like, it's all so sad and horrible, obviously, but there's only so many things that we can do for it. And like,
Yeah.
we're not there, we're not the decision makers, we're not doing these things. So if it's not something that's bringing you joy and bringing you value, like, why do you feel like you have to do that, or like
Yeah.
have to watch it,
Mm-hmm.
or have to be around
Yeah.
it? And it's just making those like conscious changes and things and looking out for yourself. Like that's something
Oh yeah.
huge about all my things that I talk about, is like, what are you doing for you? Is that
Mm-hmm.
really bringing you value? Is that bringing you joy? If it's not, why are you doing it? And like really doing some self-discovery on figuring out like what is going to best serve you and what's going to help you the most.
Oh yeah. Yeah. What can you do in that 30 minutes, hour of time? How, I mean, sometimes I know people watch longer, but for the most part, there are right, the 5 o'clock news segments or the morning news segments. What can you do instead with
Yeah.
your precious time?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to maybe even add to your energy instead of taking
Exactly.
away. Yeah.
I love
And
that.
w- the, so going back to, well, we've been talking about boundaries this whole time,
Yeah, yeah,
just
it's
in
been
not a
threaded.
very, yeah, not in a
Yeah,
very obvious way.
yeah.
But to
That's
get
what
to a
I love
more
about
obvious.
it. Yeah, that's what I love about it is you can really thread it into so many different topics. Like it really is related to
Yes.
so many different things that you don't even realize until you
Hmm.
start doing stuff like this.
Yes. What are some maybe myths or pushbacks or things that you've seen people struggle with the most in terms of boundaries?
I think some of the biggest things that I've seen people think of boundaries is it's like black and white. Like it's either you
Mm,
have to do this or you have to do that, or you're either going to upset somebody, lose a relationship, or it's going to be like everything's perfect. Like I feel like in every situation, there is no black and white. Like I love like that gray
oh no.
spectrum. And I
Yeah.
love like all of the positive things that boundaries can do for you. And it doesn't necessarily like, even though I personally have let a lot of relationships go and things have happened in my life, it didn't mean that it was totally like negative and horrible and those people hate me. Like there's like
Yeah.
it's all about like how you're viewing things. And I think just being open to that gray area and figuring out what's really going to work for you and how are you going to like communicate things or have it come across in a way that also works for them. I think that that's a really
Hmm.
big thing that people struggle with. I think people also struggle with just feeling like they like literally have to do it all. Like you said with the like cleaning thing, they feel like they have to have a perfect house, they have to have
Hmm.
the perfect relationship, they have to have the perfect parenting style, like all these things. When really setting boundaries, you can my whole thing is actually you can do it all if boundaries are in place. And it's not just in a day. Like you're not doing all of these
Hmm.
perfect things in a day, but
Oh
overall,
yeah.
if you're just doing a little bit of these things all the time, overall it'll add up to things being better like later on, if that
Yeah.
makes sense. Like
Hmm.
people think that they have to be super mom and get like 50 things done in one day, when
Oh
really if you
no.
just focus on your like top like 3 to 5 priorities for the day, implement those, then you'll feel so much better, so much more accomplished, really focusing
Hmm.
on like, oh my gosh, I really did get so much done by getting these things done. Now I can focus on
Yeah.
other things. And just having that shift, I think is really big for moms of being like, you can do it all if boundaries are in place, and having that little bit of like, you don't have to do everything all in a day. It can be over multiple days or a little bit
Hmm.
at a time, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And again, it goes back to you have to be planning. You have to have an idea of what direction you want your life to go, because if you don't, it's going to make it even more, it's going to make it harder to do all those things.
Yeah. Setting those priorities for yourself is super, super important. Like
Hmm.
kid is number one. My honestly, my business is number two. My marriage is number three. My house is probably number 4 to 5, like down here, like,
Yeah.
and that's me being honest, is like my business is something that's very important to me. And I take a lot of time and energy and effort because I know that this is something that's gonna really like last me my whole life. And when I am really able to be the best mom and the best businesswoman, I can honestly be a better wife because I have filled up my own cup, and then I can
Mm,
go and like feel
yes.
like better about the things I'm talking to my husband about, or feel more fulfilled in myself, or feel like I'm in a place of like empowerment with my own like decision making and asking for help and things like that.
Oh, yeah. That's such a great point. When we allow ourselves as moms to do something for us that gives back to us, that fills our cup, however you want to think about it,
Mm-hmm.
you show up as a better mom, as a better wife, as a
Mm-hmm.
better professional, because you took the time to do something that's going to
Mm-hmm.
bring you back some of that energy that is always being depleted. Like
Mm-hmm.
things are always taken from you all of the time. Are you taking the time to put that energy back?
Mm-hmm. Yes, 100%. And doing some self discovery on what does that look like for you? What is most important to you? Like
Mm-hmm.
for me in the morning, that's doing my mindfulness, doing my grounding, doing a walk or a
Mm,
workout, doing reading, and having an hour before my kid wakes up at least to do all those things, and then like drink my
mm,
coffee and just like relax. Like that for
yeah.
me is like a huge thing that I have to do before I'm able to go on to any other part of my day with like work or social media or any of that for
Oh, yeah.
my business stuff, because I have to be
Hmm.
in like the right mindset in order to help other people the best that I can and to be at the most like
Hmm.
productive level.
Hmm. Yeah. And even playing around with your own schedule. So the mornings work
Mm-hmm.
for you,
Mm-hmm.
to do those things in the morning. I used to think I need to get my workouts done in the morning. And so I used to work out at 8 after I dropped the kids off.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that I was starting to resent working out because I wanted to be working like in my business, because the
Mm-hmm.
morning times are really energized time for me. I feel great.
Yes.
My creativity's flowing. So I'd be in the
Mm-hmm.
gym thinking about all this stuff. And then I'd be like, ugh, I can't do anything about this because I'm working out and I'm supposed to be focused here.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up, and partially at the one of the reasons that I had made that decision was my husband was working overtime, and so it just didn't work. But then eventually he wasn't working overtime anymore, and so it allowed our schedule to expand a little bit, and I could work out in the afternoon. But I had forgotten that that was a option
Mm-hmm.
because for so long they were on mandatory overtime, and so I finally switched. I said, let me try this. And it was because some things were happening in the mornings. I think my kids were having appointments that I had to do. So I said, I'll just go work out in the afternoon after you get home. And it gave me 2 hours of time by
Mm-hmm.
just moving that 1 hour to the afternoon, because I was rushing to get my kids out the door so that I can get to the gym by 8 so that I could have an hour, and then I would have to allow myself to cool down and then get ready. So now I actually gained 2 hours by moving that 1 hour slot at the end because I wasn't
Mm-hmm.
rushing.
Nice.
I was more relaxed. What is it? And my workouts are better because I was going to the gym fueled instead of having not really eaten anything because it was so early. And so playing around,
Mm-hmm.
the point of that story, playing around with your schedule and figuring out where you might move things that's going to be better use of your time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it'll open things up for you because it's been such a huge shift for me being able to move my schedule like that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I gained 2 hours of time because I was wasting my own time basically going to go pick up all the kids. So basically I'm at the gym and my husband's doing that. By the time I get home to the gym, they're barely getting home, or they may have been home for like 5 or 10 minutes. We just switched roles.
Yeah. I love that. The whole idea of like playing around with things and not feeling so stuck. Like a lot of times I
Mm-hmm.
feel like a lot of these things in our head are like we have to do this at a certain amount of time, or like this makes the most sense, but we're not willing to just like get out of that a little bit and try something new and be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
well, maybe this other thing will work for me better. Maybe I should just try something new like you did. Like that's a great example. It's so important to figure out what really works for you. Like even though a lot of other people really like to work out in the morning and that works for me right now, that doesn't mean that it's going to work for me in a
Mm-hmm.
year from now when my daughter's in a new phase and a new schedule. So
Yeah.
just being willing to
Mm-hmm.
adapt, like that's really good.
Yeah. And so if someone wanted, oh, I wanted to make a point
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
earlier when you were talking about people's fears of losing friends or losing relationships because they're
mm-hmm,
setting boundaries.
mm-hmm,
I think it was last night. It was either last night, it had to have been last night because I haven't been on Instagram this morning. Last night, I had seen a post that had said basically that people are so afraid of losing friends or family because of boundaries.
mm-hmm.
In reality, you're losing, I think this is very extreme. Is it in reality, you're losing manipulators, and there was something else, manipulators and takers or something like that.
Yeah,
Just
I get
people
that.
who aren't really there to support you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that you definitely have to realize is like relationships are a two-way street. And if you're not getting as
Mm-hmm.
much from them as they're getting from you, like, why are you in a relationship with them? Or like, can you cut that back? Or how do you want to like change that situation so you can like ultimately feel better?
Yeah. And people just sometimes don't know that maybe something's bothering you, or it just reminds me of this podcast that I was listening to. It's been a while now. I think it was Mel Robbins.
Mm,
It's a podcast that she has on Audible.
she's so
And she
good.
was talking of, oh yeah, I love her. She's great. She's also the author of the 5 Second Rule and other things. But she was talking about how she had a friend who had recently she was going through a divorce, and this her and this friend would go walking every morning, but for a while this friend was just talking about the divorce, and Mel would say, I was just getting really frustrated and irritated that this was all she was talking about, and I
Mm-hmm.
missed our chats. I missed my friend. Yes, she's going through this thing, but it doesn't have to take up our whole walk.
Mm-hmm.
And so she finally brought this up to her friend, said,
Mm-hmm.
"Hey, in a way that her friend could hear, hey, I love you, and I hate that you're going through this, but can we talk about other things as well during our walk? Because I miss you, and I miss hearing all the aspects of your life."
Mm-hmm.
The friend had no idea. The friend didn't even realize that she
Mm-hmm.
was taking over this walk, which was just supposed to be like a nice, relaxing walk in the morning that they did together. She didn't realize. Sometimes we don't realize what we're doing, and we need someone to let us know, like, hey, can we talk about something else? You're not being a bad friend. You're just letting them know.
I love
That's a
that.
boundary. Yeah.
I love that. That's so great. Yeah, a lot of times like we're not aware, especially when we're going through like kind of like a traumatic or big situation in our life. Like a lot of times we just want to like talk and vent and we don't even realize like how long
Mm-hmm.
we're doing it for. And then someone needs to cut us off with love and be
Yeah.
what's going on? Like, I want to talk
Yes.
about this other thing. So that's like such a great example of setting a boundary. Oh my God, of her just being like, I really enjoy our time together, coming in with like a very nice perspective shift of like, I
Mm-hmm.
love our friendship, our value, our friendship. I
Yeah.
want it to be like this. I want it to be like where we have a great conversation about all aspects of your life. Like, what do you think about doing this instead? Like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I love that. That's so good. She
Yeah.
always
And at the same
fun.
time, when we can trust that we have people in our lives that are gonna tell us this, if we can trust that our friends or our family are lovingly gonna tell us, hey, can we talk about something else, please?
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that this has been hard for you, da da da,
Mm-hmm.
right? If
Mm-hmm.
we can trust, then we would be able to trust that we could open up and talk about these things and not have the worry that, oh, I'm going to be too much or I'm going to bring them down, because we know that they are going to tell us if that's
Mm-hmm.
the case.
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes we don't even open up because we're afraid that it's going to be too much or we're going to bring someone down. And then we end up isolating ourselves. And that's not good either. But being able to have boundaries and know people are going to let us know could really open that up for us
Mm-hmm.
and be able to allow us to really use our support system, our village, like it's intended.
Mm-hmm. I agree for sure.
Yeah. Well, we are running out of time, unfortunately. But if someone wanted to reach out to you, what is the best way to get a hold of you? I know you have a mailing list, which I will
Mm-hmm.
link up in the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
But can you talk about a little bit about what being a part of your mailing list entails?
Yeah, so my mailing list is growing and I'm going to be putting out a lot of content about like whatever new things that I am offering at the time, or just reminders about like new blog posts or podcast episodes, things like that. Just gonna be a lot of reminders. It's not even going to be more than once a week. In the beginning, it might even be like every other week. So it's not going to be a lot of information, just whatever is like crucial little reminders just to like get to know you guys and build a little more of a rapport. But my favorite way to actually connect with your audience would be through social media on Instagram or TikTok. And you can follow me at the Bold Mama Co. and send me a message. I would love to hear from you. I always respond to everybody that sends me messages or needs any support or love or guidance. So yeah, those are the few ways to really connect with me.
Awesome. And I know you have a freebie that's available that's talking about boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Is would joining the mailing list be the best way to get that information?
Yes, yes, yes. So that is the one that's up right now. And it is 5 unapologetic boundaries that every mama must set, which is a really good one. And it's a really good, like, little overview to
Mm.
get into just knowing like some basic boundaries to set and like why it's important and a little introduction about me. And it's in a really cute format where you can kind of like understand a little more about my content. So it's really fun. I like that one a lot.
Yeah, it is. I looked at it and it is
Oh,
really in a
good.
cute
Oh, thank
format.
you.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Whitney, for joining
Thank
us.
you. I had the
And
best
I
time.
can't, thank you. I can't wait to connect again because I know we will.
I know. Thank you again.